I still remember the pride I felt when I signed those mortgage papers. After years of saving every penny from 3 jobs, I finally had my own home. When I showed my parents, I expected congratulations. Instead, they looked at the modest 3-bedroom house with calculating eyes. "Brian," my dad said coldly, "you know your sister Jessica needs a place to live. This house should go to her." 2 weeks later, I found court papers in my mailbox. My own parents were suing me for my house. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe. Growing up as the middle child in my family was never easy. My parents always had a clear favorite, and it was not me. My sister Jessica, who is now 29, received every advantage they could provide. When she wanted to attend an expensive private university, they emptied their savings without hesitation. Meanwhile, when my acceptance letter from state came in the mail, their response was simple: "We expect you will figure out how to pay for it." And I did. I worked full-time while carrying a full course load, graduating with honors, despite the exhaustion that became my constant companion. My younger brother Thomas, 25, now mostly stayed out of the family drama. He learned early to keep his head down and avoid drawing attention when our parents were busy praising Jessica or criticizing me. This pattern of favoritism was so consistent throughout our childhood that it became almost predictable. If both Jessica and I were invited to the same birthday party, Jessica got a new outfit while I wore hand-me-downs. When we both made honor roll, Jessica received a new laptop for her exceptional achievement, while I got a pat on the back and a reminder that meeting expectations does not deserve special recognition. I moved out the day I turned 19. My parents seemed almost relieved to have one less child to worry about, especially since Jessica was struggling in her sophomore year and needed their full attention. I found a tiny studio apartment with questionable plumbing, but relished the freedom it represented. No more walking on eggshells, no more direct comparisons to my perfect sister, no more feeling like a burden in my own home. My career path was not glamorous, but practical. I secured an entry-level position at a local IT company, learning everything I could about network security. During the day, I troubleshot system failures and installed security patches. The first 2 attorneys I consulted wanted retainers I simply could not afford. The third, Sandra Williams, took pity on me after hearing my story. Her $5,000 retainer still wiped out my emergency fund, but she promised to fight vigorously on my behalf. "Cases like this make me angry," she told me during our initial consultation. "Parents using the legal system to bully their children is unconscionable. We will gather every scrap of evidence to disprove their claims." No vacations, no expensive restaurants, not even the newest phone models that I could have easily gotten with my employee discount. Every sacrifice was recorded as another step toward my real goal: buying my own home. After 60 months of aggressive saving, I had amassed $40,000 for a down payment, a sum that represented countless missed opportunities and relentless discipline. The house hunting process was grueling. I viewed 27 properties before finding the one. Some were too expensive, others required repairs beyond my skills, and many simply did not feel right. When my realtor Jennifer showed me the 3-bedroom ranch-style house in Oakwood neighborhood, something clicked. Built in the 1972nd, it needed cosmetic updates, but had good bones, a decent-sized yard, and most importantly, it was within my carefully calculated budget. Walking through those rooms for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future where I had stability, where no landlord could raise my rent or ask me to leave, where I could paint walls without permission and finally adopt the dog I had wanted since childhood. Homeownership represented more than a financial investment. It was validation that my years of sacrifice had been worthwhile. Closing day was the proudest moment of my life. Signing those papers, receiving the keys, and driving to my house felt surreal. I moved in with help from my work friends Cameron and Dexter, who spent an entire Saturday carrying furniture and boxes while my family was too busy to assist. Jessica had a hair appointment. She simply could not reschedule. My father was golfing, and my mother claimed to have a migraine. I told myself it did not matter. This accomplishment was mine alone. A week later, I invited my family for a housewarming dinner. I spent hours cleaning, cooking, and arranging everything to create the perfect impression. When they arrived, their congratulations seemed forced, particularly from my parents. My father barely made eye contact as he handed me a generic housewarming card with no gift inside, quite different from the expensive smart home system they had given Jessica when she moved into her luxury apartment 3 years earlier. During the house tour, my father pulled me aside in the kitchen. "This is a nice starter home, Brian," he said with an unusual intensity. "But have you considered that Jessica might need a place like this more than you do? Her landlord is difficult, and she deserves stability." I laughed, assuming he was making a poor joke. "Dad, I worked for years to afford this place. Jessica makes twice my salary at her marketing job." My mother overheard and joined the conversation. "But she has student loans to pay off loans for the education that is allowing her to build a real career. You should consider what would be best for the family." I changed the subject quickly, attributing their strange comments to the wine we had been drinking. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs. The following week, my parents invited me to their house for Sunday dinner. Jessica and her boyfriend Andrew were already there when I arrived. Throughout the meal, Jessica complained about her landlord raising the rent by $100 per month, describing it as basically criminal. My parents nodded sympathetically while shooting meaningful glances in my direction. Finally, my father cleared his throat and set down his fork. "Brian, we have been thinking about your house situation. The responsible thing would be for you to do the right thing for family. That house should go to your sister." I nearly choked on my water. During the house tour, my father pulled me aside in the kitchen. "This is a nice starter home, Brian," he said with an unusual intensity. "But have you considered that Jessica might need a place like this more than you do? Her landlord is difficult, and she deserves stability." I laughed, assuming he was making a poor joke. "Dad, I worked for years to afford this place. Jessica makes twice my salary at her marketing job." My mother overheard and joined the conversation. I tried explaining that I had emptied my savings for the down payment, that my mortgage was calculated based on my specific income, and that I had spent weeks painting and fixing up the house to make it my own. The more logical my arguments became, the more emotional and hostile my parents grew. "After all we have done for you," my mother said, tears forming in her eyes. "But she has student loans to pay off loans for the education that is allowing her to build a real career. You should consider what would be best for the family." I changed the subject quickly, attributing their strange comments to the wine we had been drinking. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs. The following week, my parents invited me to their house for Sunday dinner. Jessica and her boyfriend Andrew were already there when I arrived. Basic parenting is not something they owe me for, I wanted to say, but held my tongue. "I think it is time for me to go," I said instead, standing up from the table. "This conversation is not productive. If you walk out that door," my father threatened, "you will regret it." I walked out. The next few weeks became increasingly stressful. My parents called daily, leaving voicemails that alternated between guilt trips and thinly veiled threats. Jessica texted constantly with links to apartment listings she thought would be perfect for my lifestyle. She even showed up unannounced at my house one evening with a tape measure explaining that she just wanted to see if her furniture would fit. I changed the locks after discovering my parents had used their emergency key to enter my home while I was at work. The security camera I hastily installed captured my mother opening drawers in my home office and my father taking photos of my mortgage documents. When confronted by phone, they claimed they were just checking on me because I seemed stressed lately. My Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, called to warn me that my parents had been discussing their legal options at a recent family gathering. They are talking to lawyers, Brian. I tried explaining that I had emptied my savings for the down payment, that my mortgage was calculated based on my specific income, and that I had spent weeks painting and fixing up the house to make it my own. The more logical my arguments became, the more emotional and hostile my parents grew. "After all we have done for you," my mother said, tears forming in her eyes. Inside were court documents indicating that my parents were suing for ownership of my house, claiming they had contributed $25,000 toward my down payment and that I had verbally promised the property would ultimately go to Jessica. Both claims were complete fabrications. I had saved every penny myself with bank statements to prove it, and I had never not once suggested Jessica should have my house. "I do not know what they are planning, but be careful," she cautioned. I thanked her and tried to convince myself they were bluffing. Surely no lawyer would take such a ridiculous case. I was at my desk, reviewing network security protocols, when the courier arrived. "Brian Matthews," he asked, holding out a thick envelope. "You have been served." My colleagues watched with concerned expressions as I opened the envelope with shaking hands. The absurdity of the situation hit me as I sat in my car during lunch break, the legal papers spread across the passenger seat. My own parents were willing to lie under oath to take away something I had worked so hard to achieve. I broke down sobbing uncontrollably until my lunch hour ended, then splashed cold water on my face and returned to my desk as if my world had not just imploded. Finding an affordable lawyer was another challenge. And gather we did. I provided years of bank statements showing regular deposits from my multiple jobs and the large withdrawal for the down payment. I had emails with my mortgage broker discussing financing options that never mentioned parental contributions. The discovery process revealed something even more disturbing: text messages between my parents and Jessica, dating back 3 months before I even closed on the house, discussing their plan to pressure me into giving Jessica the property. Even more shocking was finding evidence that Jessica had already contacted interior designers about renovating her future home and had discussed with Andrew which room would become their future baby nursery. Meanwhile, my parents had been telling extended family members that they had generously helped me purchase the house, positioning themselves as benefactors rather than schemers. The emotional toll was immense. I began suffering from insomnia, often lying awake until 3 or 4 in the morning before dragging myself to work. My performance suffered, putting at risk a promotion I had been working toward for months. Some days, I would sit in my car in the parking garage, unable to summon the energy to walk into the office. My team lead noticed my distraction and dark under-eye circles, but kindly covered for me during an important client presentation when my mind went completely blank mid-sentence. Friends rallied around me when I finally shared what was happening. My neighbor Roger, who had witnessed my parents entering my house, unauthorized, volunteered to provide a statement to my lawyer.